Well, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like Capcom is up to some interesting tricks when it comes to the latest Dead Rising game that's coming out, and fans have noticed a very particular change, and this one has to do with the removal of another Asian character. It seems like something that they like to do lately. You know, Ubisoft removing Asian people and basically making Yasuke into the main character. Capcom's removing an Asian guy and turning it into a white guy because apparently Asians can't be psycho characters. This is a very interesting story. It says Capcom is accused of race-swapping psychopath boss Larry Chang from Asian to white, likely due to racial stereotype in Dead Rising.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
Now, you gotta imagine, if they're going to race swap this character because being Asian is problematic, I would hope that they change the name. I hope it does not stay as Larry Chang. Otherwise, that's going to be extremely lazy in the overall grand scheme of things. Now, keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, this should not be very shocking considering that Capcom, not only just recently, the localization team admitted that they are going to be changing quite a bit of things when the upcoming games release in the West because they want to make sure it's culturally sensitive. Whatever the fuck that means, right? They want to make sure it's culturally sensitive, and they want to make sure they change certain things so that people don't get offended. It's basically their own ethics department at the end of the day instead of a localization team. Now, apparently, they're doing it with this particular game. So let's get into this article, guys, from That Park Place. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, just consider hitting that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it, and like the video to push us out into that YouTube algorithm. So it says video game publisher and developer Capcom is being accused of race swapping one of their psychopathic bosses in Dead Rising from Asian to white, likely due to racial stereotyping. Now, this is the character Larry Chang from Dead Rising in 2006. This particular character, nothing wrong with it whatsoever. I don't understand why they need to change it, considering that if somebody looks at this game in a game that's based on zombies and says, oh, look, they are racially stereotyping an Asian, guess what? That person's not a gamer. They are not there to actually play the game. They are there to try to find problems. This is the reason why these localization teams, they're built from people who aren't gamers. They're literally built for people who are looking for problems. That's what it is. They want to find problems in any little thing they possibly can. Nobody had an issue with Larry Chang, and if anything, you're actually reducing representation by replacing it with a white guy. Isn't that completely against your entire ideology? The only reason why you're okay with replacing him with a white guy and not a black guy, for example, and trust me, all of this is always so easily predictable. Anytime it's changing a character who is a bad character from an XYZ race to a white guy, it has to be a white guy. Because if they're going to do a bad character, it can't be anyone else. That's why they're taking away the Asian. They're perfectly fine with removing representation, so long as it's doing it for bad characters. They'll remove the Asian guy. They're not going to turn this character black because they can't have a psychopathic black guy. So they made sure that they gave him the white treatment in this particular notion. It says ex-user Pirate Nation shared a pair of screenshots of Larry Chang from the original game, and with an unnamed white man wearing glasses and a baseball hat that appears to be a replacement for Chang. The user wrote, Capcom's Dead Rising remake race swap psychopath boss Larry Chang from Asian to white, likely due to racial stereotype. I mean, look at this. It's very clear that this is the same character, right? So some people are trying to say, oh, no, this might be two different characters. No. This is the same character. They're changing the character. He even uses the same lines that Larry Chang used. Now, again, I hope they change the name. I hope they name him like Bob. Give him like an ultra white name. You know what I mean? Like give him something that's going to be a little more obvious with the agenda, because I think it'll be funnier that way. But their particular reasoning for doing this is pretty obvious. They want to say racial stereotype. No, they just don't want to depict non-white people as bad. They want to depict as many white people as bad as possible. This was obviously coming from their ethics department or whatever they want to, you want to call it localization team, whatever. But that's the ones making these kind of decisions. The heavyset white man seen in the screenshot was recently featured in the Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster announcement trailer from Capcom USA. The game's protagonist, Frank West, is seen in what looks like to be a meatpacking building, and the fat white man greets him saying, "A customer?" This is a line that Chang uses in the original game. In the original game, Chang is one of the game's many psychopaths or individuals who have lost their minds in the wake of a zombie outbreak and have become a violent threat to the survivors. He is clearly depicted as an Asian man, and he also happens to be a butcher who is located in the meat processing area in the maintenance tunnels during case 8-4, The Butcher. The character fits the bill as a psychopath, given he believes zombies are spoiled meat and people are fresh meat. In fact, players first encounter him when they see him dragging Carlito Keys into the meat processing area through a security camera. When players arrive at the scene, Chang is hanging Carlito onto a meat hook and is preparing to butcher him to eat. As West arrives, Chang leans down over Keys and says, "Ah, a customer." He then turns around and confronts West with a maniacal laugh. Now, I remember having a discussion on SNH about overall remasters, remakes, or whatever. This is my problem with remakes, and I'll keep bringing it up, right? Remakes are not necessarily giving players the same experience or a similar experience that they got with the original games. The original games have a completely different story half the time because they're so busy changing what they deem to be problematic content in the original games. So at this point, you might as well just make a new IP. If you cannot stick to the original characters because they're deemed problematic and you're literally removing representation that you say is very important just because the character is a bad character, but you're perfectly fine with representing white people as bad characters, it makes it so obvious your ideology. It makes it so obvious what you're doing, and it makes you wonder, what are they going to do with the rest of the game? What is going to happen with the rest of Dead Rising? Is the rest of Dead Rising going to be affected in this similar notion? Is there going to be other psychopaths that are non-white people that are going to be potentially changed to white people because it's just a problem? Like, at what point do you realize, like, this is ridiculous? Nobody had an issue with this. Nobody at all. The accusation does indeed have merit, given Capcom announces localization team was altering video games for cultural adaptation, preserving context, which they never do. They never preserve context. I want to make it very clear. Never do they ever preserve context. That is a fucking lie. They change context. They don't preserve it. And inclusive storytelling back in April. The company posted to X, "What is localization? Embark on a global adventure through the lens of game localization. Beyond mere translation, we're diving into the art of cultural adaptation, preserving context, and inclusive storytelling. Join us as we unravel the intricacies that make games resonate worldwide." The account added, "Localization isn't just about translating words." It is, by the way. "It's about adapting the game for a global audience. Think cultural nuances, idioms, and regional flair. A good localization makes players feel right at home whenever they are in the world that they are." Now, players feel most at home when they feel like they're getting the genuine story that was meant to be told by whoever created the game that wasn't from the West, right? So when people look for Eastern content, they're specifically looking for that content not to be translated in a way that makes it seem like Western content. If they already have decided that they don't like Western content and where that content has gone or where it's going, they've already made that decision. So they go to Eastern content to find something different. And unfortunately, Eastern content is now going through the eyes of terrible localizations that are just completely ideology based. Like, they're not giving you proper, actual, real translations anymore. Sometimes they're changing the story damn near completely because they change key points in the story, key context that needs to be upheld, but they never do. All this preserving context nonsense, that's not true. They change so many things, and it makes it to the point where it's not even the same story half of the time. So again, we need to stop this nonsense. Nobody was complaining about Larry. Let's keep Larry the way he was. But of course, they're not going to, because white man is allowed to be bad and everybody else, nope, they got to be squeaky clean. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you did enjoy it. If you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.